Okay. Check my camera. All right. So, I'm going to be starting another new series. This one is basically going to be some more entry level C# programming um, tutorial stuff. Uh, so yeah, so I'm going to go into like more explanation. Hopefully, I can remember to do more explanation as I'm doing this. But the goal here is to do like entry level or basic C# information. To do what I'm going to be doing for this series is I'm going to be going through a website known as Advent of Code, um, where we're going to be doing some challenges. I've already done a couple here for this part of the series, um, so yeah, I'm going to use this as our guide for what we're doing, and I'll show what the problem is, what the problem is and the solution and how to get there. Okay, but the goal again is mostly to be about um, the basics of C# programming. So we're going to start off by we're using Visual Studio 2019. At least that's what I use. The language itself doesn't change regardless of which application you're using for your code. But Visual Studio is really good for C# as an IDE because it shows you like where your errors are, what your errors are. The logic is a lot better than a lot of the other IDEs that I've seen. I'm not saying that it's the best. I have seen some really good ones, but just because of this is what I use for work and it's free and all of that, this is what I use. So this is what I'm going to show you guys how to use. All right. I'm not going to show you how to install Visual Studio 2019. If you need help with that, you can reach me in my Discord. Should be in one of the links below if you're watching this on YouTube. If you're watching this on Twitch right now, we can talk about how to download Visual Studio separately. Okay. All right. We're going to start a new project. Okay. And for these, I think it's going to be best if we use a console app. There are other things we could do. There are things we could do that wouldn't be hard, but I think a console app is going to be our best bet. So I'm going to use. I'm going to look for a C# console application. I can just do console, and you'll see. Make sure your language is C#. Make sure you're in console.NET Core. All of that goodness. .NET Framework is an older version of .NET. It's still in use, but .NET Core is the newest. So we're gonna go next. We want to name this. We're gonna because we're gonna start with 2015 day one in the Advent of Code project. We're gonna name this AOC. No, I did not want AOC. I do not like AOC. Let's do Advent 2015 DO01. So I know which day I'm working on. Okay. Maybe I'll just do day. I like that naming scheme. Advent of 2015 day 01. Yeah, let's do that. And then let's make a separate folder for all of these. I want to keep this on my Z drive. New folder. And then yeah, we can just do it here. We'll just use this folder. Okay. Excuse me. We want to make sure that we're using the current .NET version, which is why I chose the .NET Core console app, not the framework. And then we'll create our project. Okay. If you're not familiar with Visual Studio, this is pretty easy to understand what's going on here. You've got your code here. You got your different files over here. So this is your solution. Your solution is basically the whole program. This is the project within that solution. So this is what's running this section of code. And then this section of code starts at the program.cs. You can have lots of different files here. For what we're doing, I'm not going to worry about file structure, so I'm not going to be separating out files too much. We will have two other files, but they won't be CS files. CS files are program files for coding. I'm going to make text files, which is just going to store our test data and our actual data from the Advent of Code project that we're working on. You want me to move the camera to the right bottom? Okay. Oh, you're right, because you can't see my stuff on the top. Okay, 1 second. Let me get this out of here. Okay, is that better? Okay, so as I was saying, the up here is your stuff. I'll cover this again. So this is your solution. So this is your whole project, okay, or the whole program. I shouldn't say project. This is your whole program. You can have multiple projects in a program. This is your project, okay. Your project runs this section of code, which is your program CS, right? And you'll always want to make sure you have a main, which not necessarily true with C#, because as you get into more advanced stuff, you won't actually be using that at all. But there will be one that exists. I'm pretty sure it still exists as main. But yeah, this is where we're gonna work. We're gonna work inside this main class. So that's yeah. Little breakdown of what's going on here. So this is your imports. Tells you what libraries to use or what logics you're going to use. That's a pretty similar concept in all programs all coding languages that I've seen. Bringing in your libraries. And then you have your namespace. Your namespace determines like where or how you call that particular program or that particular set of code, class, whatever you want to call it. Fucked up my camera. So this becomes more important as you get more files. So like if I made a new folder, for example, I'm just gonna do data. And then like I want to access a class that's in that folder. Okay. So like I want to access this test class. I can't actually access it without using its namespace, which this is its namespace. So it's the namespace of the project name and then dot folder name. So it's in the data folder. Okay, so if I wanted to use that, I would need to use advent.day.data. Okay, then I could actually use that. So I can access that test class, right? If I didn't, when I tried to type that out, oops, you can see it's gone now. It doesn't know that this exists anymore because I'm not using the namespace. So that's what namespaces are for, is using accessing code from another part of the project. Your class, each class, I don't know how to describe what classes are used for. Classes are separate out portions of code, I guess. You can use classes for a couple different things. The main thing is like your code versus like a library or an object or a lot of different things. Like let's say I wanted this test class. I'm gonna make this an object. I want it accessible. Like I want to keep. Let's say I want this to be a container where I contain a string. Public. Just test string. Okay, and I wanted to also contain an int an integer, which is a number. Okay. So if I wanted to use that, what I did there was control dot, and then it adds the using for me, so I don't have to type it out manually. Okay, so I created a new test class in here. So I created a new one of these here. Now I want to access the test string and the test int that are in there. I can just do test dot test, and there's my test string, and I can assign to it. And then same thing with test int. I can assign a number to it. Okay, so that's how I access those. And that's what like an object class is for. And yeah, you can. There's a lot of things that you can do with that. Again, that's something I can go into later. That's a little more advanced, not super basic, but that's how you. That's what classes are and how you use them. Most of the time, I set my classes to public by default, just because I intend to call them from other places in the program. Usually, not always the case, but usually I intend to call them from somewhere else in the program. So that's your classes, and then you have your functions or methods. Inside of your classes, you have you can make different functions. So, yeah, public, and I'll do void. Oh, that's not what I want to do. So, like, let's say I want to do a test function that just says that just writes the words hello. Okay. Okay. So I want this to write, instead of saying hello world, let's say I want to call this function from my main. So when the program starts up, it's just going to call this test function that I wrote. So I'm going to do, oops. An object reference. Shouldn't have to do that. No. Why are you being a pain in the butt? Oh, maybe it's because my class needs to be public as well. No. There we go. Can't make my function be static. Duh. Forget about that. I don't use static, so I'm not actually 100% sure what it does. I know it means that the program can't be changed, or the class can't, or the function can't be changed. Anyway, so removing static, I can now access this test function. So when I start the program, it's going to say hello, and then it's going to wait for me to hit a button. What? Hang on a second. What's going on here? I also don't do console apps very often, so I actually have to look at one of my others. Okay, what did I do? I did public static. So why am you being a pain in the butt? Do I need to like do something beforehand? Something's different. Why is that not working? Here what we'll do is we'll change this to a Boolean. I think that'll fucking... Still doesn't want me to pass that. An object reference is required for non-static field. I don't understand why it's got to be static. It's like if I do static, it should work, and there's no return. That's weird. Hang on a second. Let's look this up and see. C# console app static. Okay, so why can't I do non-static? So it's saying you don't have to have them all static. But this one won't let me do it not static. Oh, I wonder if it's got to be... I wonder if it's got to be static while it's in this class. So like if I did a outside of the program class, I did a different class. Well, it still wants me to do it static. Because like if I did this static, it fixes it. That's interesting. According to what we just read, though, shouldn't have to be that way. Anyway, so that's how you, let me put this back. Oops. I moved a bracket. I don't think for this it's going to matter. But that's interesting to know that in a console app, because of the way that you set up main. Let me open up. Yeah, I think that you're partially right. So, same thing here, public static main. But you can use that to you can use that to start a new function. So like if I did this, if I did equals lambda main program or main function if I could spell. And then cut this out. Then I could do this as main function. Then this shouldn't need to be static in that case. What? Oh, that's why I need to do. No? Oh, I forgot the keyword. There's a keyword there. New. You always gotta, I forgot that you gotta do new. It's new. Alright. Let me explain what's going on here because this is a little bit more advanced. And obviously I needed to do some research because I don't do this part much. What I'm doing, so when you start an application or when you start a program, this has to be static because that means that is what starts the program. Like it cannot start the program if there's no static. What? Why is it saying it can't? It can be public. Static void main function. Where's that at? Hang on 1 second. No, it's there. If it's functioning, it just needed to. Okay. Sorry, it didn't clear the errors, and it was confusing me for a second. All right, back to what I was saying. All right, you have to have the static void main as a entry point to your program. Program cannot start without the static void main. Now, this isn't something I deal with much, so this isn't something I'm super familiar with because a lot of this stuff does come pre-built in your applications, and you don't want to mess with it too much because, like I said, this is the backbone for your program. So you kind of set it up the way that you need it for what you're doing, and you leave it alone usually. Now, with what we're doing, we're actually writing in here. So what I want to do is I'm creating a new non-static function that I can use, so I don't have to make everything else static. Okay. So when public void main starts, it's going to call my main function, which is my first function that I have here. And that first function or method is going to write hello and wait for you to hit a key. Okay. That's all it's going to do. And then it's going to end the program. So it says hello, waits for you to hit a key, it ends the program. Okay. That's basic. Now let's see what I'm doing here. Okay. The console in console.writeLine is because you're in a console app, and what your console is this window here that pops up when you run it. This is your console. Okay, so the console accesses this, and then the write line tells it what to do. It's gonna write a line in this console, and that line is hello. Okay, and then it's a line because it starts the new line afterwards. That's why it's blinking here, and then now it's waiting for a key to be pressed, which any key will work. That's what closes the program. Okay, does that make sense? All right. So that being said, God damn, we're already a half hour in. I shouldn't swear. Whatever. Okay, so what we're gonna do now is I'm gonna do the advent of code thing, and like I said, I already did these, so I'm gonna log out and I'm gonna try to use a different login. Hopefully my GitHub will be a separate login. Cool. I don't have anything done. All right, so let's go ahead and go to. I'm on the 2000. So I went to events, went to 2015, and I'm doing day 1. Okay, so here's our first problem that we're gonna work on. Okay, and I'm gonna go over here. I'm gonna create a new class. I'm gonna make it a txt file. Notes.txt. Okay. Boom, boom. Okay, and I don't want it in here. I want it here. Oh, it's not in the folder. It just looks like it's in the folder. Okay, that's fine. All right, so let's make some notes here. There's some story that goes with this, but I'm going to skip the story. I'm just going to go straight to the problem. Okay, so Santa's trying to deliver presents in a large apartment building, but he can't find the right floor. The directions he got are a little confusing. He starts on the ground floor, which is floor 0. Okay, so that's note number 1. We're going to start at floor 0. Okay. Let's go back to this. And then he follows the instructions one character at a time. An open parentheses, which is a left parentheses, means you go up 1 floor. And a closing parentheses means you should go down 1 floor. Okay? So let's go back to our notes. Because that's the key here. Equals +1 And then this one, no, this one equals -1. Okay, so now we know that's how you go up or down. The apartment building is very tall and the basement is very, very deep. They will never find the top or bottom of the floors. So it goes infinite in both directions. Okay. For example, if the instructions are up, that's up, up, down, down, or up, down, he goes to floor 0. Or if it's up, up, or up, down, up, that's floor 3 because he's 3 up, or that's 5 up, 2 down is the same thing as 3 up, right? Same thing here, 2 down, and what is that, 6 up, or 2 down and 5 up is also 3. Okay, so that's what we're looking at. Now, let's look at our data input. Okay. We're going to create a new text file here. This is going to be our data. All right. And we're going to put our data here. Cool. All right. And it's all one line, so I'm not worried about, word wrap or anything. But that's the data we're going to use. So we need to create some test data first. Okay. Add, we're going to do a class, and we're going to do test data .txt. Okay. And here we want to just do something simple, probably some of this test data that they gave us in the website. So let's do this one. It's supposed to result in -3. So it's down, up, down, down, up, down, down. That should result in -3. Okay, so that's going to be our test data. We know what it should result in. All right, so simple enough. We got our data, we got our test data, we got some notes. Let's come up with a plan on how to solve this problem. Okay, so we know we need to figure out how many floors does it go up, how many floors does it go down, and we need to find out what his ending floor is. Okay, so find ending floor. That's the end goal. We need to read the data and count how many of these, and then subtract however many of these. Right? Pretty simple. Shouldn't be too hard. Okay. There's a couple ways we can do this. All right. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to go to our program, and we need to make sure that we can read our data file. All right. And this is where I'm going to cheat just a little bit because I don't always remember the path that I need to use. So I'm just going to copy this. Might need to add a using statement, which I'm pretty sure we do. Yeah, we need to use system.io for Streamreader. Streamreader is an object that you can read data to. Okay, so like this is going to read the data from this file. No, it's not. It's going to read data from there. From this file. We want test data first though. Okay, so it's going to read the test data. All right, and then it's going to assign it to this Streamreader object. Okay, now the Streamreader object isn't something we can interact with very easily, so we want to create a new variable, which is a string. We want the string to be what we're reading or what we're interacting with, and we're going to do reader dot read to end. Okay, so it's going to read the entirety of the file, which is what this reader is, and then it's going to give that to the variable data. So that's going to be a string with all that in it. Okay, so now we have our string. A string is an object that can contain any characters, and it's just like it can be a sentence, it can be a word, it can be numbers, it can be whatever. But it's not something you can do math with or anything like that. It's just it's a text object. Okay. So now that we have our text object, what we want to do is figure out how do we want to count the number of open brackets and the number of closed brackets. Okay. in strings, there is a couple ways to do that. So I'm trying to think of how I would want to do that myself. I think that what I would do is a for loop, and then we're going to do, so a for loop starts with condition and will continue until the ending condition is met. Okay, so the first thing you're going to do is you create your starting condition, which we want I equals 0. So our starting condition is going to be I equals 0. Now what happens when it iterates, or when it finishes the loop? It's going to I plus plus, which tells it to increment the I. So like if I is 0, when it finishes the loop, I becomes 1. And then if it finishes the loop again, I becomes 2. I becomes 3. So that's your starting condition, your loop increment, and then when does it exit? Your exit is when I equals, or while I is less than, is less than data dot length. Data dot length is how many characters are in your object. Oh, I'm dumb. You have to use semicolons, not commas. Don't you? What? Wait, what? What am I doing wrong? Huh? What did I do? What is wrong with my for loop? Frustrating. That was right. What? Cannot convert into bool. What? Hang on. Something's up. I don't use for loops either. I'm missing something stupid. Something simple. Something super simple. And oh, I have it backwards. I forgot. So, okay, so it's starting condition, ending condition, increment. That's what I did wrong. There. Yeah, it's dumb. I use for eaches usually. Okay, so anyway, like I was saying, starting condition, your starting condition is you set I to 0. You create this object, or this integer named I, and you set it to 0. That's your starting condition. Then you have your ending condition. This loop will end when I is not less than data.length, which is the number of digits in data. Okay, which we'll see in a minute. And then every time it loops, it'll do I++. Now, you want to do, at this point, you want to do an if condition. So you got to do, I'll show you what the I is going to be used for. So you're going to do if, is it character at? I think it's, let's see, let me, string dot get, is it string dot get char? String dot, where is it at? I think it's string dot get character. Can I do, Can I just do, I think I can just do S, or not S, data I. Oh, I forgot. There we go. Okay, that works. I thought it was a string dot get char, but okay. So this part is a matter of looking at what character is at the position I. Okay, it's important to start I at 0 because when you have a count in programming, you start at 0. You don't start counting at 1. You start at 0. So at position 0, let's go to our test data. This is the character at position 0. This is the character at position 1. This is the character at position 2. This is the character at position 3, and so on and so forth. Okay? So, you want to start at 0 because you need to count that first character, which is also why you don't go less than or equal to data.length, because you're going to have like 29 characters, but you're only going to go to 28 in your index. Okay? So, now's where we got to consider, where are we keeping track of our count? Like, how many of these do we have? Well, we need to actually have a variable that keeps track of those. Okay, so let's go ahead and start that before we loop. We're going to do an int. What do we want to call it? Floors up. Floors up. So we need an int floors. Actually, we can simplify that. We can just do int floor. Okay, and the reason why we're just going to do one int is because we can just add or subtract based on whether this is this bracket or the other bracket. So if data at index I is an up, we want to do floor plus plus. Else if, and I am doing an else if statement just because I want to. I'm used to wanting to protect from bad data. So, and just like with the plus plus, it increments by 1. Well, minus minus also decrements by 1. I don't know how to say, if that's an actual word. De-increment by 1. Okay. So then after this runs, we want to, what do we want to do? We want to print out our floor. What floor are we on? So console dot write line. We're going to say fat man is on floor. Well, I'm going to show you a trick. $sign in front of the string means you can insert a variable into the string. Okay, so you can actually insert your floor. All right. Am I good so far? Have I lost anybody yet? Has everybody lost completely and totally? No? Okay, cool. Let's run this, okay? It's going to break, I promise you. I never write it right the first time. Oh, never mind. We're on fat man is on floor -3. What I want to do here, I'm going to do a console dot dot read key. I like to do the console read key at the end so that way it doesn't try to exit the program. Okay, fat man is on floor 3. That file allocation table manager? What? Table manager? What? What are you talking about? Anyway, so that's our test data. No, advent of code is where it's a Santa thing. So Santa is going up and down floors. So that's the fat man. Okay, so we know our test data works because the test data that we use, was this one. Okay, up, down, up, down, no, down, up, down, down, up, down, down. Should put us on -3, which is what we got. Okay, so let's do our actual data. Boom. Okay, actual data. Fat man is on floor 280. Cool. Let's copy that. And let's see if that's our right answer. 280. Ready? Submit. That is the right answer. We got 1 gold star. We are closer to powering the weather machine. Let's go to part 2. Okay, part 2, because part 2 is a continuation. It's the same puzzle, same data, but we need to do more. So, now, given the same instructions, you find the position of the first character that causes him to enter the basement. So, floor -1. The first character in the instructions has position 1, the second character has position 2, and so on. So, they want us to not start at 0. Okay? So let me explain what he's doing. They want us to know where in the instructions does he first go into the basement. Okay? Which character is that? All right? We need to make sure that we also increment that character by 1 because we start at 0. Even though that's the first character, it's character 0, like I said in the index. So if he goes into the basement at character 0, we need to make sure that that returns as 1. Does that make sense? So we're doing the same thing. What we need to do now is if, at this point, if, I should make notes. Okay. Screw it. There's not really much else to say. This one's simple. I'm just going to delete my notes. Oops. I don't want to rename it. I want to delete it. Okay. So if at any point floor is less than 0, we need an integer to indicate where that's at. So int basement character, I guess. Basement character? I don't know what else to call it. We want to start that at 0 as well. Okay. Now, if floor is 0, so if he goes into the basement, we want to do basement character equals I plus 1, right? Because wherever he's at in that list of instructions, so if it's at position index 0, that's position 1. So if he goes in the basement at 0, we make that the basement character, but we add 1. Okay? So that way we can make sure that that works. Now, at this point, you could do a break to make the program stop running, but that defeats the purpose of this stuff, like the part 1, because this is the part 1 answer, this is the part 2 answer. I don't want to negate its ability to finish. So instead of fat man is on, I'm going to say fat man ends on floor whatever, which is going to be 280. Fat man entered the basement on step basement character. Okay, so now we know when he entered the basement. That was super easy. Part 2 was super simple. Let's give it a test. Okay, Let's use our test data though, because we know he's going to go into the basement at the first character. Okay, so let's go back here. Let's make sure that it returns. Let's make sure it returns 1. Like, he goes in the basement on step 1. Oh, no. We don't want to override it if it's previously assigned. So, if floor equals... Okay, let me explain what happened. I'm jumping ahead too much. What happened is because he entered the basement, left the basement, entered the basement, left the basement, went back into the basement, and then was in the basement, then was in the basement, then was in the basement. It overwrote my basement character. I don't want it to do that. I just want it to be, if it's not 0, don't override it. I want it to just give me the first time he enters the basement, right? It's a good thing we have test data because that would have screwed us up. So, if floor is if floor is less than 0, so he's in the basement, and basement character is 0, then you can go ahead and assign a new basement character. Otherwise, don't assign it. You see what I'm doing? So now if he enters the basement for the first time, because basement character is going to start at 0, if he enters the basement the first time, it'll assign it. Otherwise, it'll have a number there and it will not reassign it, right? So let's try it with our test data. It should return 1. Fat Man entered the basement on step 1. Perfect. That's exactly what we wanted, right? So now let's do it with our real data. Oh, damn it. Press the button. So he entered the basement for the first time on step 1797. Let's copy that. Let's see if that's our right answer. Oops. 1797. Do you think that's right? I think that's right. That is the right answer. You earned 1 gold star, closer to powering the weather machine. You have completed day 1. Share on your Twitter, blah, 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 blah. Return to your advent. So you'll see we got both of our stars for day 1. Okay? I will come back tomorrow. Yeah, I'll come back tomorrow. I will probably do days 2, 3, and 4, maybe? We'll see if I can get through 4 tomorrow. Okay? I'll stream them. I will record them separately. They will release on YouTube on separate days. But that'll be the start of our basics programming stuff. If you guys enjoyed, please follow. If you're following me on Twitch or whatever, thank you for being here. Thank you for watching. If you're watching on YouTube, please leave your follows and comments. Help me become visible to people that are trying to learn. Thanks. Love you guys. See you later.